My name is Ryan Murphy. I am from Rochester, New York, but right now I'm sitting in the living room of my grandparents' farmhouse in Pennsylvania. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in this room because my parents would come over and visit with my grandparents almost every time we were in town, which was almost every weekend or every other weekend. I used to play in the corner with a bunch of Lincoln logs, but the thing that was most exciting to me and my brothers was to go down to the barn across the street. My mom was always really nervous about that because she's from the city, and really there was nothing more fun for us as kids than to go run around and play in the barn. There used to be a bunch of cats that we were trying to catch, kittens that we would try to catch. We would just climb all over all of the ladders and in the haylofts and just go everywhere. It was like the dirtiest place ever, so I'm sure my mom was really upset about it. So this, the Murphy barn, as it is really a local landmark because it's such a prominent thing. Our farm is half a mile wide, and there's a road that goes right through the center of it. So everybody that lives anywhere near here knows the barn and talks about it. It was actually built in 1832, as far as I can tell. There's not a lot of really hard records back then. There used to be a lot more farms because the farms had to be much smaller because people really farmed by hand and they had horses. This is so much earlier than the Industrial Revolution or even the Irish potato famine. So this 1832, this is eastern Pennsylvania. It would have been the Wild West. There would have been very little civilization for many, many days around here. This is so early, and to have a farm happen here and to really be successful out here in this cold winter was probably a really hard thing to do. But at the time, in 1832, when my great-great-great-grandfather came over, he might have come over on a sailboat. It was that early. It was before steamships. It was before all the kind of images of 20th century immigration that we think of. So it would have been like a terrifying moving, around the world on a boat where people didn't always survive. Would have come out into this really cold climate and found not a lot here. Maybe he had to clear all the land himself to get started. In 1832, this is like, Little House on the Prairie. They had very primitive tools. They probably had a horse or a donkey or some animals like that to help them. But it really would have just been, this guy and his family out in the woods trying to make a living and survive. See, this is actually so the barn is from 1832. It's been here in this form since about the 50s. My grandfather doubled it in size by hand. He built it himself. Just so that he could expand his business and make it bigger. We're talking today because the barn is getting torn down. It's really outlived its usefulness. It used to be almost a factory to take care of all of the animals and all of the equipment that it took to really make an earning.
See, that's a chute to get hay down to the...
And because this isn't a working farm anymore, it doesn't really justify the really significant investment would be to keep it together. It started to fall down. There's a back addition that's fallen down, and my dad always talks about once one part of a barn goes, the whole barn will fall down. And so instead of actually just letting it fall down, we're going to tear it down so that we don't have the kind of sad reminder of the past kind of slipping away. For me, I just want to hold on to as much of this property as I can. I want to preserve this house that my family's lived in for almost 200 years. So in 2017, my hope is to be able to preserve as much of this farm as we possibly can. It's too late for our barn that we have to tear down just because it's become dangerous. But we still have this house that my family has lived in for 6 generations. I would like to preserve that for my nieces and my nephews and my whole family, so that anyone who wants to come here and kind of have a connection to this land can have that. I have dozens and dozens of cousins who used to come here when it was a working farm, and I want to make sure that everybody can come here and really enjoy it to the best that they can, and that we can just pass it on to the next generation. I think that's really important.